All right. Look at us. Hi.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Cole. How's it going?
It's going good. This is a rare. I'm taking it. This is a rare Wehrlegig stream from the leader offices.
Daytime. Daytime hours.
Daytime stream.
Yeah.
It's. I got here early. I put in my extra hour.
Hey,
I did
that
my
counts.
little part. We actually. I was almost late for the stream because we were doing. Patty organized a white elephant book swap for the new year among staff. So
Good.
you had to like wrap your books and then write a little description of the book.
Your John
Um,
Grishams.
yeah, well, it was great. Actually, everyone on staff at Leader Games has great book taste. I got this Cork
Ooh,
Dork.
cork dork.
Um, the description was amazing. Like only I think this is well. I won't say who put this into the selection. Actually, I will. It was Liz Davidson, but she had a beguiling little summary that said like only 268 people have ever become certified, like world certified sommeliers at the highest level. Why is that?
Mm,
And what is it like to become one?
okay.
And to
Okay.
hang out with people who are obsessed with taste. Um, and I don't know anything about sommeliers, so that's I'm going to read this year.
But
And
we do like obsessives of a certain sort. So I get that.
yeah, it was great. I had such a good time. So anyway, that's why I had to run in late for my sound check.
Well, I'll take all privileges as friend of the studio, friend of Leader Games,
It's true.
to steal away for our annual live stream. It's so nice, Cole, to just cut aside some time for us, for our backers, and I don't know, do a little bit of reflecting and open the door,
Yeah,
and get to tell people where our heads are at, right?
it's a funny stream because it's like a half AMA, half show and tell, half yearbook. I don't know. It's so funny. The first one of these we did was almost like accidental. We just sort of stumbled into it, and now it is like the stream I look forward to the most every year.
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun. And hopefully, just bother me about levels. I know that who knows.
Oh yeah,
We don't stream that often, so it's not broken yet, so that's good. Let's just jump right in.
we don't stream that often.
We
Drew's
don't.
got such a professional rig.
We love it. We sometimes do it. But we're here to talk about our stuff, Cole.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and we're gonna start. I think we should start by talking about what we did last year, right? We should.
Oh yeah.
Anything else off the top before we dive in?
It's off the dome.
No. Let's
I don't think so. I think let's just get into it. We had a
let's do
busy
it.
year. We should talk about it.
Yeah, look at this. Here is a rare actual nice picture of Cole.
Well, most con
um,
pictures, I mean, con pictures are funny because you're in your element, but also you look horrible because you are just like tired and you're wearing like a torn hoodie and it's noisy and you've got big bags under your eyes. But this was at Gamma, which is an interesting show. It was our very first time ever going to Gamma.
yeah,
A
the
show for the
expo.
real grown-ups.
A show for the grown-ups. And after that show, gosh, after that show, Jason Matthews really plugged me into the world of Gamma and started our, I guess now it's been about a year that I've been volunteering on their board of directors, and it's been a really interesting learning about that particular professional organization and all of the work that they're doing and want to do. Yeah, it's been really neat, but it sort of started here, and that was what, March of last year. So it really feels
Yeah.
like just about a
Yeah.
year ago. And we got to show off our really nice, like, our nice booth. I don't know. It was really fun having it, the little maiden voyage of this.
Well, and let me explain what Gamma is to folks. The
Yeah,
Gamma Expo, I should
yeah,
say. The Gamma Expo is sort of I'm not even going to call it a Gen Con scale show, but without customers. The only people who attend the Gamma Expo are stores and publishers. In large part, other folks, of course, do come for events and things. So what you're mostly doing is talking to other publishers. You are showing your games to stores who might be interested in buying them. So that's why I said, it's for grown. It's like really, it's just a show for industry professionals. The floor itself is only open for a few hours every day, so it's pretty easy to go to the show.
yeah, yeah. And they've really
And
built out a ton of the like educational and professional development programming across, like there's a reorganization and now there's divisions. So like there's things for designers and creators as well as publishers and retailers. There, it's really like a a really interesting trade organization that culminates really in all of the networking that happens wherever their show is getting hosted, right?
And I think us being there was also a sign of how the company has changed, how Whirligig has changed. So when we started, it was a side gig in the truest sense. I mean, we were just doing it on weekends. Had another job. I had another job. Uh, and we had a business model that basically said, look, people want the games, they can buy us, they can buy the games direct during the crowdfunding campaign, and maybe if we have any left over.
Yeah.
And then because Premiere has done very well and John Company has certainly found an audience, we've been able to keep those games largely in stock. We have sold more to stores, and we started going to shows and selling games like a small game company as opposed to like a weird weekend imprint. And so the fact that we were at Gamma at all is kind of a sign that we have moved slightly towards at least in our business strategy, slightly more towards the world of traditional publishing. Now, we are still making the weird games that we want to make. We're still
Yeah.
investing the sort of resources we want to invest in them. But what we discovered was there were all these people who really wanted to play our games who didn't have access to them. Maybe they are really unplugged from the Kickstarter scene. They've never been on BGG before, and the one way they interact with the board game hobby is they go to their local game store in Lincoln, Nebraska, and that's the one place that they're going to engage with the hobby. And if our game isn't on that shelf, then that person is just literally never going to engage with it. So we have just tried to improve our efforts to talk to those folks, because it turns out they are also really interested in the sorts of games that we
Yeah,
make.
especially knowing that some backers have just backed, but then they also run retail stores themselves, and they're like, "There's no, there isn't the infrastructure." Like, Whirligig was not in the ecosystem
Right.
of publishers at in certain places. So it's been a ton of it's been a lot of learning. And Cole, we did so much travel, we did so many shows last year together, and we will certainly be doing more. But it was doing a tour with Molly House, with Pax and John Company this last year was it was a lot. It was a lot of work, and it was so fun, and we got to see so many different people. And one particular highlight, which I'll go to the next slide, was bringing was at Gen Con. Can I show the good people
Let's do it.
this picture? Look at these.
So our friend NB asked us if we would be interested in participating in uh, the Archivist Dream, which was a John Company live play experience. And we didn't know much more than that, but I have always been very impressed with MB and things that they've created. And so I thought, okay, sure, I'll sign up for this, even though role playing for me even live playing is a very personal experience. I do not like doing it in public in any way. I was very nervous, and I will never forget the look that Drew shot me. I walked in after the Arcs launch. I'm so exhausted, but we have this evening event, this Archivist Dream John Company event. And I walked in this room, and there was a little table. We were setting up a table, and I looked at Drew with like pleading with my eyes. Please, can you like get me out of this thing that I've committed to? I'm so tired. I do not want to be here. And Drew looked at me and said, I'm going to go get you a cup of tea. And then he went off. He brought me back a cup of tea, and it just sort of I just had like a moment to reset, and then we launched into the most remarkable game experience I think I've ever had, where basically we played a game of John Company, where during the game we had to write ephemera, letters, maybe a newspaper notice, all sorts of things those items were being assembled into a document, a museum exhibit, an object where we were sort of like creating the material of history, and then it was being built into this other object. And I was so moved by it, just as a way of thinking about what play can mean and be. Um, I want to do it again. I want to do it every single year. I feel
Yeah.
like it was incredible. And also there are lots of ways that I think it could be even better.
Yeah.
And so
It's a
I
tease.
don't
What we're doing a little bit is to say a tease. It was such an interesting reflection on a game that we got to work on for years and thinking this should be experienced by other folks that have relationships with John Company. This would be a really, I mean, I'll speak really openly that I think this would be an interesting project for us to work on. But
Yeah.
as you know, whoever's out there, we like taking our time, and
Yeah.
this
Projects
is,
take a long time.
and the projects just take a long time.
Well, and I will say, so we had an interesting experience that happened then at SD HistCon, which is that Harold Buchanan, the organizer of SD HistCon, asked Drew and I if we would want to run one of the big like crowning game events of the convention, and he asked me if we want to run John Company, but he stipulated that he would want an epic, a large size John Company kit. So I went on a big adventure to build giant John Company. Now, normally I would have not done this, except in the back of my mind, I just kept thinking to myself, we're going to use this at Gen Con one day for a giant live play. And so I built this giant John Company, and I should do a Blue Sky thread or something about how I built it, because what I did is I looked at all the components of John Company and I asked myself, what is the hardest object for me to manufacture by myself? And it didn't take long for me to realize, oh, it's a sailboat.
Yeah, the giant
Can't
ship.
can't I can't build a sailboat, and I kind of need like 20 of them. So I found a ship of a size I really like. You can see the Walpole over there, that green boat. These are like, I don't know, like plastic ship models. They were maybe like $2 a model or $3 a model or something. And I then scaled John Company up to match the scale of that boat. And then I just found elements for the different game elements that could match that scale. And we played a game of John Company with teams with about 16 people. And all I thought I mean, I had a great time. It was a lot of fun. But at the end of the game, all I thought was if we had done the Archivist's Dream with this crew, it would have been even better.
Yeah,
And so it's funny, I
so
haven't even like had a chance to properly talk to NB
mhm.
about it, but I just want to work on the Archivist Dream and I want to help them make it incredible. I think it is already amazing, and I can just see the many different ways it can
Yeah.
be, and I'm sure NB can too.
Yeah, I dropped the link in chat for the session debrief that kind of goes into details about the letters and the objects that were left behind, and sort of the structure of the session, for folks that want to dive in more. But yeah, what a treat! So John Company on the mind as much as ever.
Yep.
But we also worked a lot on Molly House, and
So much.
I wanted to share these photos that I don't know if we've circulated. We have so many photos and screenshots and snippets of the design sort of across history, because it's been, I mean, it was such a joy and a privilege to work with Joe on this game for years, and also to have so many versions of it that didn't get that I were fledgling that didn't get to be shared, and I think we still have to do a proper like post mort or like design reflection
Yeah.
right after it. But I think from left to right you can see its transformation, because I think that kit is from March, and then the middle one's June. The last one might be the Gen Con version.
Yeah,
um
pretty close to
yeah.
what ended up being the game. I mean, I'll say something interesting about the process of collaborating with Joe, who's a wonderful collaborator, is that because collaboration, gosh, I'm like, even just pausing there makes me sound like an authority, and I'm not. I hardly ever do this. But what I want to say is that I usually am extremely open about my dev process. However, if I'm working with a partner on a design, I actually don't want to talk about it that openly, because I don't want to accidentally violate that trust. And in fact, now that the studio here at Leader has gotten bigger, I find myself talking a little bit less about in progress design um, to a general public. I still do it with testers, of course. And if you go to the Whirligig Discord and you take a look at some of the Molly House dev chats, you can find just like pages and pages and pages of us chatting about these things. But for that reason, I mean, Molly House went through all this work, but we didn't share that much of it. Um, but I think what I'll say is that Molly House, I think, really hit its stride, and kind of like it had these two phases. The first phase was UKGE a year and a half ago. So the last time I was at UKGE, first time I was at UKGE, when we showed um, the prototype we were working on with Joe to Joe in person, and we all played together, and we thought, oh, this is it. This feels really good.
Yeah.
That version we then spent a few months polishing, and we presented that on the crowdfunding page. So that was our backer kit version. So if you played Molly House last at the backer kit page, or if you watched the backer kit videos, that was that version. And then after backer kit, really during and after backer kit, there were a few things that where Molly House was falling short of our ideas, our
Ex-
ambitions,
yeah.
and Joe and I and Drew, we had a lot of conversations about the design. We kind of kept working on it, and then right before PAX Unplugged, we did like a little adjustment. And the thing that we adjusted about the game is we changed how the festivities worked, so they were more organic. So instead of going to a festivity knowing that you were knowing what kind of party it was going to be, we kind of rejiggered the system so that it would be an emergent property.
Right.
And then all of last year, if I can zoom out for a second, really all of last year was about validating that concept and making sure it was in fact the right way to go.
Yeah. I mean, so like reflecting on the nature of parties and party going and party planning, is all wrapped up in Molly House. And Cole, I do feel like I can go on
Yeah.
in this particular part of it. We have to keep on going.
Wait,
But
can I say one more
yes,
thing though? Can I say
yes,
one
tell
more thing?
me, tell me.
Sorry. The other element that was like part of that validation was figuring out where the constables should live
Oh
and where the
yeah.
feeling of threat should be. And this was when I look, I mean, all three of these versions, you could look at those versions and be like, that's kind of the same game. Those aren't that different. But I want to point people's attention to that middle picture, to that little track that's on in the gray box. That's the infamy track. One of many ways of thinking about how should players feel about their own liability towards the Society for the Reformation of Manners. No design question in my career so far has been worried over as much as that design question. And in fact, we would have had this game done 6 months before if we had figured out the answer earlier. But it was just a place where, even as the rest of the design was strengthening and improving, that question of like, where's the risk? Where's the fear at in the game? It just took a long time to figure out the proper location. And by the time we got to the Gen Con build on the far right, we had answered that question.
Yeah. Y'all are so kind in chat. It's truly, I am so glad that we were able to work on this game, and it was such a puzzle box of a design of a design. And I think there were moments that like I think we all could have just said, yeah, it's working well enough, let's go forward. And
A lot of the people will like they like how interconnected and tight some of the titles that we work on, and that was one of the things that really attracted me to Joe's initial design, was that it was very tangled. Um, but when you work on a tangled game, if you break one part, everything else breaks. And there were versions of Molly House where we would like make a correct change, but it would look incorrect because it had broken everything else.
yeah.
And that was just the process of building the game.
But look, now we're now it's done. Manufacturing is complete. I've sent out some early copies. And there is this glorious production is I cannot wait for folks to like actually see this game and to get it on the table. Because I think there is a spark of working on this game that I think we were removed enough from wrapping up development to getting it back in person, that we then got to experience all over again when we were doing demos at PAX Unplugged in December.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to see the game really sort of with new eyes after a few months, while production was happening. And it was electrifying for I think everyone on the team, and for our volunteers that were amazing, that were helping us out there. And even for our testers that have done a lot of online testing of it, I cannot wait for those sessions to materialize into meet space.
For those of you who haven't played it yet, I have the best news for you about Molly House, which is that we finished development and people kept playing it on the Discord. There's no better sign. Nothing makes me happier to think like, oh yeah, they finished Molly House and they wanted to keep playing it. Great, because these are people who played a lot of Molly House.
It's special, and it feels amazing that it's so close. Here's your quick fulfillment update: is that Australia I think is getting their shipment soon, and maybe the first orders will go out the next week, which would be amazing. Canada shortly after that. Most folks, I suspect, sometime in March. Um, I hope. I hope, but very, very, very close.
This is
Um,
a good, this is going to be a rare Canada first fulfillment. It just happens sometimes. Usually Canada has to wait till after US is done or close to done.
yeah, rare, but I think for whatever the winds fared well for them.
Yeah.
Like with all of our other games, I guess unlike it, there's mostly it's Rachel Ford's incredible artwork that's all over this game. And we will be putting out like a print and play kit for folks, and the game is also under the Creative Commons like it was before, too. So like we'll have those things up very soon, as well as more online resources for folks. So I know that Ricky Royal is going to shoot another video for the solo mode, which I'm pumped. I think Ricky's copy is in the mail, but Ricky's told me that he's excited about that. But we're going to be working with some amazing YouTube folks to help us with some video previews. I think I can tell folks that Good Time Society is going to do a really nice teach for us that is going to be pretty collaborative. So I'm pumped about that. And then we will show it off. We'll show it off at its first convention at UKGE, and I think Joe will be there.
I'll be there.
Cole will be there. It will be. There'll be a big Molly House picture. It's gonna be really neat. But I went and yesterday quickly recorded an unboxing video. Because it has y'all have yet to see actually what's inside this thing in detail. It was my second take shooting it, so I think I didn't do as good of a job as the first time, sadly.
No.
It's okay. But okay. We will watch it right.
And we can talk about it. Some people have asked about localization. We do the localization process kind of starting now. So usually we keep our same partners from previous projects. And so I if you're wondering, like, will there be a there was an X language version of Premiere, will there be a Molly House one? Probably yes.
Yeah.
And then someone asked us about how we choose designs to pursue. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we can get into that in a minute. All right, we're just gonna do a commentary track over an unboxing video, Cole. That's what I'm presenting.
This is commentary.
This is commentary over it. Okay, let's watch this thing.
Yeah, look at this. See.
Now,
do you remember the day you filmed this?
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah, just like yesterday.
This is Drew's table.
This is my.
I've played mini games on this table. Love the cover. Took us a really long time to figure out the right way to build the cover, because we had all this amazing art, but it didn't compose itself the way our covers usually do. One funny thing about this box back is I am very finicky about box backs.
I'll go back.
And so, yeah, you're going to go back to it. So when we got our pre-press copy, I actually didn't have a box back on it at all. And then I used the pre-press copy to take photos that we then use on the final box back. So it's like the Ouroboros of photo reuse. There are some very subtle changes in between that photo and the final version of the game.
I think the lighting gives it an extra sheen that I fully convinced my wife that it was a 3D render because of the which is also even more complicated. So yeah, it's indeed.
I'll say a funny thing about it too. I took that photo. I set up my fancy like DSLR camera and got my lights all ready to take that picture. And then I took a reference photo with my phone. And then of course, like the phone photo turned out better than any of the other ones. So it's yet another phone photo on the back of a box. The Root meeples on the back of a copy of Root are also a phone photo from my phone.
Already of note, all of the rules should be right here. I just didn't put them in the box, but I will when I repack it. But know that that's where usually the rules and the player aids are.
Yep.
But you can see that all of the
rules are very similar in size to Premiere.
Yeah, I'll grab them in just a second. But you can see that the 5 player aids sit like that, and then the board, which I'll flop out.
Yep.
And what a joy! What a joy to work on a 4-fold, Cole.
Love a 4-fold. That was a high priority during dev because a 4-fold brings all of the people closer to the table. And so we really wanted to keep it at a fourfold. And there were times when the scoring chart, like we were really pushing in that sixfold area, and there were versions of this game that were sixfold boards. But I'm so happy we were able to get that done.
Yeah. All right. Here's
Uh,
here's the paper that I
Oh yeah,
missed,
here.
which
Can you
is
pause right here and just talk about this?
sure, sure.
We have, like our other games, two aids that are double-sided that Drew's holding here. The aids are a little wordier than our normal aids, but almost all of the rules are on them for the critical phases. So because Molly House has a few elements where you do want to like actually the specific wording of the rule, we actually just sort of pulled those words directly out of the rule. So I hope players will find them really useful.
All right, let's get back to where is it? This. Yeah, there we go. And there's I don't know why I'm thumbing through the rulebook like y'all can read it.
Well, no, but it's all
there.
right. It's good. Again, very similar in length to Premiere. Okay, now
So
here's the box. Pause for a second.
yeah, hold on. Let me show. Again, I had just packed it away. We can get into this plenty, but I think I showed y'all that there's a bunch of spare bags right away, and then there
Yeah.
is a ton of ways to pack up this box.
Yeah.
And you'll see that I pack it away different than Cole does. Without a
Yeah,
doubt.
there's and it will work with sleeves or not sleeves, but obviously if you're using sleeves, they are taking up space,
Yeah.
and so it'll change how you pack up the box. Um, it is a very full box though. I mean, this is a full box, but we did make sure that the box lid will close when it ships to you.
Yeah.
In order to do that, we had to like lower some of the plastic walls and things like that. But when you get this in the mail, like it will be a one tight box.
Yeah.
Same exact box size as Pax Premier as well.
Yeah. So I had stuff that was in. I had the punch tokens were separated by like class that I had in the box, and then I have everything in here sleeved and with the metal add-ons, just to like this is everything. So this is about as big tight as it gets. So you can see I could have put bags for the wooden pieces. But I wanted to show you a close up of the fun the natural rubber playmat, which is it was so cool to finally land on this thing after ages.
Oh, yeah,
And
we had elevated boards, magnet boards. There was all sorts of stuff we tried, and in the end, it was like, no, it should be unfussy. It can't shift during play. It needs to look nice. It allows us to have to use more paper texture in the game because we have this like beautiful, like kind of dark red centerpiece. So the contrast works really well.
Yeah, and importantly, it's highly functional. That's the biggest thing. Also, one of the big grabbed pieces in the game is the candelabra, which
and that piece profile exists because Drew and I love chunky old Euro games with giant wooden pieces.
I think maybe we decided on the shape of that after playing oh gosh, what was it?
Is it Heimlich and Co?
I think it was Heimlich and Co. Yeah, I think so. And these very overlarge evidence and reputation cubes.
Yeah. There's a little movement dice. Took a while to get the movement dice right, just because we wanted the right level of kind of sparkle in that die.
Yeah, those are the I went past them too fast, but they're 4 D10s that are also with that same marbled effect as the die.
Right.
Let's go back up here.
Those cubes are huge, but they're huge because they are really important, and we made them big. I don't know. I'm not gonna apologize.
Yeah. Anyway, here's a close up of all the player pawns, though the wooden ones that come in, which are just great. I am so happy with how they turned out, Cole.
A great suggestion from our manufacturing partner Panda, who said like, you can turn these designs instead of doing them flat.
Yeah.
And they turned out so well.
And in the same bit, I'm showing off the add-on, right? This is the extra one with the felted bottoms right here for the painted and washed and felted metal pawns, which were wildly expensive to produce.
Yep.
I'm glad I could keep them somewhat affordable, and I did have to raise the price on all of them for going forward from here. Yeah, and that's the set of
They're
of that
just
all.
they're handled so much. I mean, this is a thing where if a piece is handled a lot, I don't want it to be too small. I want it to feel nice. You know, it's such an important element of the game.
Yep.
Here are the joy markers.
Yep. The also important round marker.
Yep, correct. You got to have a round marker. I love a little gold metallic paint.
Yeah, but hold on, I can get rid of us. There we go. Because here's
You can
some.
swear, I don't care. Um, Here are the indictment cards. So this is a place where, like, in another world, I would have been like, "Give me custom art, Rachel, for all of them." But we had done so much custom art for the game that we were like, the indictments get the same art. Um, I mean, we had a we did not know we were going to be doing unique or commissioning unique illustrations for every single card. Um, all of the cards. So if you want to pause it here,
Oh, let
all
me
of
go
the
to pause. Let
cards
me go to pause this.
feature a fragment from the primary record
Yeah.
of this period and a citation. Those fragments were chosen and assembled by Joe into these suits, and then we worked with Joe and with Rachel to sort of create these like large panoramas. So you can take a suit and put all the cards next to each other, and it kind of like tells a scene. Um, and the effect, I'm really proud of it as a visual effect because it was
Hmm.
something that we all worked on collaboratively. Like I helped with the initial concepts, and then Joe gave it. I mean, did all the legwork of the actual like assembly and editorial work. Joe did, and of course Rachel built these compositions. So it was a real team effort, and they can hit like a ton of bricks. And the way that the fragments will combine and combo in the parties tells these amazing little emergent stories. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah. I think actually when we wrap up the stream, that the little stream background was the continual piece of all of the different card types together. Um, and here, hold on, I think I bring it down a second. There. So that's not the best still, but there's a few die that are in there that are used in the solo mode for with the rookery. But you
Yep.
can see that the I think maybe I'll go tap tap. Not really great, but there's a big well for the mat that has a higher edge. Yeah, you can see right there. This has a higher edge than this part. So when you shut the when you pack the game away, this is really your fill line is right here, because
Yep.
that is where the board is going to be. So yeah, you'll notice that there's the I think the pack up is actually a bit more forgiving than
Yeah,
others.
there's like a ton of different ways to pack up the box. It's very full, and some clever person is going to design a beautiful 3D printed insert that will be great for them. I
So
know.
you'll see that this is how the metal pawns come in this little box, an actual thing with a tuck box for our add-ons. And I'm just going to fast forward right here through the pack up because there's a million ways to do it. I'm doing it sleeved so I'm not bagging the cards, and I may just like, yeah, I don't even put those in a bag. Can you tell it was the end of the day and I was frustrated. I already messed up my first shoot. um but it is a pretty, and you'll see that I'll like,
And yes, you can buy the metal pawns separately.
yeah, yep, then player boards, and then I get the rules on top of it.
I
That's
love this little fast forward. It's so fun.
I
And there it
know,
is.
I know, and there it is. See, we can make a we can give a lot of flexibility for folks for packing up, and you can take out the insert and get wild with it. I guess is
Yeah.
the other thing, right?
And we did do internal printing on both the top and bottom. So if
Yeah,
you take out the insert, you actually the box is gorgeous.
yeah, yeah, which is great. Maybe we will maybe I'll crop that and share it later, or maybe I'll reshoot it. I'm sure someone with a better setup should, like, I'll ask them please to do a better unboxing video. um but it was I think Cole and I could probably also have a could talk more specifically about every little bit
Mhm.
of inside the game. But I think we're both well, not even both. I think everyone that's worked on the game is happy with where the production landed. And yeah,
Well, in this, I mean, one thing I'll say about it too is this was an experiment for us. We had never worked with an illustrator. We had never worked with a lead designer who is not either myself or Drew. So there was we had to learn a lot just because there was a bigger group of us working on this project, and it was fascinating. I had such a good time, and I mean, it was hard. I don't want to I don't want to devalue the fact that we put in a mountain of work to get this thing ready. But I am so happy and proud to have participated in the making of this game. It's really amazing. It's like nothing else that you've played.
Yeah, I think we, Cole, we both feel a certain level of disassociation from projects that we work on, where we're like, "Wow, I can't believe that exists now," and like we're just
Yeah,
like, "No,
yeah, I don't really think about it as a
dude."
game I worked on. People will sometimes ask me like, "Do you ever play games you make?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because they're games." I don't feel like as soon as I'm done, that's someone else's
It's
child.
yeah, it's the world, it's the world's. Uh, let me talk about Hellraisers. Cole, can I get in? Can I get into the weeds?
Yeah, get in the weeds.
So we're making Matilda, Luke, myself, Joe, Cole, a big design development team working on Hellraisers, and we're going to bring it to Kickstarter. We're going to crowdfund this together, and I'm so excited about this project. It's been a joy to work on over the last year. Sort of like while Molly House is wrapping up, we're shifting gears into Hellraisers. We've never done a project like like this. We're constantly experimenting with what Whirligig is to us, and whether that means, are we publishing other games? Are we just a design and development studio? And I think this was a really interesting project for us to take on for a bunch of different reasons. And it's been so fun to have this sort of project to have on the back burner to really be taking our
Yeah,
time with as well. Um, Cole, you have been giving you've been involved in this project. And I think do you
yeah,
want to speak a little bit to your involvement?
sure. So I liked it when I first played it. I wonder, is my copy?
Somewhere
It's
there.
over there. It's right. You can
Hold
almost
on,
see it.
hold on, boop.
I don't know. It's over there. It's over there.
Okay.
Um, anyway, nice scene change. So one thing that really compelled me about it is it uses some of the gameplay tropes of a pack style game, but it's a business game and it applies them to a very narrow focus. So one interesting thing about the PAX system is that Pax Porfiriana, the first PAX game, was very narrow in scope. And Premiere was a little bit of a widening. I went from like, okay, 10, 15 years of time in Porfiriana to 20, 30 years of time. And then, of course, PAX Renaissance or Transhumanity, if you've played those games, are huge. PAX Renaissance is like a double header of Here I Stand and Version Queen as like a card game. And Transhumanity is like 100 years or even more. And what I loved about Hellraisers was it says, no, 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 the PAX series is at its best when it is narrowly scoped. And then it was also very, and I loved just how grounded it was in that. And then the second thing that I really enjoyed about the design was that it was a game about labor history, something that I am passionate about, and is chronically undergamed. And so, because our game company is really premised on the sorts of history games that don't usually get a deluxe treatment. They're often, I mean, people have been making quirky history games for a long time, but we really want to do history games that treat every subject with the severity of a game about the Battle of the Bulge or better.
Yeah.
And so I was really impressed with that. And then, but at the same time, one thing that I learned when it came to Molly House is that I mean, I already knew this. I am a full contact collaborator. Uh, if I get put on a project, I'm going to be in the weeds as much as anything. With Hellraisers, I have a more structured role, which is that I get to kind of operate as sort of a creative director, and I get to come in and I'll do a graphics pass where I'll do initial layout on a bunch of different card templates. And I'll say, here's how I'd imagine this visually. Now you and your team can actually execute this. Or when we're working on the design, Drew will, show me some little element of the design, and I'll help solve a specific problem, or I'll make some suggestions. So I always feel a little bit bad because I'll come to the Hellraisers meetings, I'll throw a grenade into the room, and then I'll leave. But it's actually created this really interesting like call and response I have found where whenever I look at a new version of Hellraisers, I can see suggestions and sort of feel my influence on the design, but it's getting modulated through like just an amazing team. I mean, I think but Matilda is one of the best new designers working today. Luke has done some incredible work in the past, and then of course, you know, Joe Schmidt and Drew are what I would consider like some of the best development like workhorses in the industry. I mean, Drew has like shadow developed every Leader Games title. I'll reveal on the stream. In fact, this morning I asked Drew when he wanted to play the new Oath stuff with
Mhm.
me because I wanted his opinion on some things. And so it is so fun to say, all right, here's a project that you get to be the chief dev on with this team and then kind of turn over the reins, and they're making an incredible design. I played it last week and it knocked my socks off, and I was sad I couldn't play it immediately afterwards.
Yeah, it's there's uh you know what I'll say to that, Cole? One, thank you. That was very, very kind. This team's yeah, this team's amazing, and I think I cannot wait to like work on it further with some graphic designer to with some more graphic design and some more art to get it that much prettier before we, I think, show it off more properly. But today I wanted to do, I think, I don't know if we did this for John Company. I wanted to do a preview. I wanted to show off
Let's do
and
it.
do the 5 minute pitch of it. But before so, know that this is a game. If we didn't say it at the top, Hellraiser in Kanawha County is a game about labor history in West Virginia, turn of the century. It's asymmetric. Two player, it's built around this 3 player dynamic where a couple of players are playing coal company mine owners and one player is playing the labor movement, striving to have their union to have a union recognized and draft their union documents. This moment takes place in around the Paint Creek and Cabin Creek strikes that eventually percolated up to the battle at Blair Mountain, which was the largest moment of civil unrest, the largest battle on American soil since the Civil War. Anyway, and that's what the movie Matewan is all about. And Cole, I wanted to ask you this before stream. Did you meet John Sayles? Do you have a connection to John Sayles that I couldn't
I
remember?
did meet him.
Okay.
He did a screening at Austin when I was a graduate student that I got invited to, and I had a cocktail with him,
What?
and
Uh,
we talked about his novels and weird
what?
postmodern things.
The
It was like,
Secaucus
I mean,
Seven,
I
maybe?
was
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we talked about his book. What is it called? The one about the miners in Colorado. Oh my gosh, I'm
Yeah.
so so
I
embarrassed.
don't know his books as well as his movies.
But anyway, it was amazing. And he was also like, he was the beau ideal of like an indie director of that generation and type. Like he was
Oh,
just like a cardboard, like a cutout of what you would want to imagine, kind of a mavericky type director. But I love the movie Lone Star,
uh,
and I adore Matewan. So it was
yeah.
amazing to meet him.
So that also is, I think, percolating too. Is that like,
Yeah.
yeah. And I will say yeah, I could speak on this project about the influences around it before, but we are going to go over to Hellraisers, and I'm going to show y'all this. So I'm going to kill our video for a second, and we'll get rid of those bits. Yeah, I'm going to do 5 minutes here, and then we'll wrap it shortly after that. But here is just like a spread of things in Hellraisers that I wanted to show y'all. It's a PAX like game, so there is a market of cards. Players take actions. I mean, you have 2 actions on your turn and some bonus actions. So you might across the game be taking, as a coal company, you might be purchasing cards, you might be selling coal, taking the scab action to hire more workers onto your cards for you to run your mines, so you can sell coal and try to get the upper hand so that you can win the game. Some general concepts that I wanted to show off are some of these classes of pieces. So there are sites in Hellraisers that are managed by the coal companies. Sites have workers on them. So this site has workers as these little black cubes up here. They also have some hired hands, which are your hired security that we'll call thugs. One of the golden rules in the games is if there is more pieces on a card than underneath the card, that site is considered open and functioning and gives access to the action flags, the action abilities of it. So this site gives this particular company the ability to exploit and to scab and to sell coal. And when you take actions, it scales for the amount. So they have access to 2 flags. So when they sell, they can sell 2 pieces of coal. In the game, coal is represented by these die. So this represents coal. It's a die that's above a card in the stockyard. And that die might get moved around if it needs to move down to the junction so this mine can dig again, or might get sold for its value. Importantly, the pieces underneath the card are in the outskirts. Those are strikers. If there's ever more cubes under a card than on the card, or if there's more pieces here, this site is shut down and it's on strike. On strike, closed sites don't dig coal, and they also don't give access to flags. So that's a fundamental part of this game is labor trying to get these pieces back to work, or for them to remove these pieces from play. You'd imagine that might happen via the harass action. Certain actions in the game result in collecting and rolling a pool of die. These die are going to be very likely custom die faces that have a certain attrition value on them. So if you're trying to harass and you might roll 2 skulls, that means 2 thugs or a worker died in that particular conflict, which in this case would still leave that site closed. These die are multifunction. You know, Cole and I like we like multifunction components. So you will see
It's
these.
a secret sauce.
It's a secret sauce that we and Matilda knows this well too. And I think that's there's some design aesthetics that I think are very overlap quite a bit. These cubes, when they're removed, will very likely go over to labor's player area. So let's say, I don't know, there's a horrible harassment at the Paint Creek mines and resulted in a miner losing his life. That becomes outrage. And this outrage is built up by the player that then can be spent out into the market, or must be spent out to speculate into the market where it will sit on certain cards. If a card is bought that has outrage on it, it will multiply and go back to the reserve. So if this company particularly decides to buy strike breakers, more outrage will be generated. Now, how do you win in this game? Well, the coal companies will win if they get through the deck of cards, and then whichever coal company has the highest victory point lead will win the game. The game can also end early if any company has 2 or more open sites at the end of every round. The game could end in maybe the 3rd round or so.
If they have 2 or more open sites more than
the other company.
Yeah. So they're in a race, right? So either at the end of the game, like their investments kind of get evaluated in terms of victory points. The other way that they win though is if they can create like a kind of market dominance.
Yeah, they do the buyout.
In the early
buyout,
part.
right?
Yeah, essentially it's the buyout win. If you've played Off-World Trading Company, it's the buyout.
Now, labor doesn't want that to happen, so they are trying to keep the coal companies in check while also trying to fulfill their own demands. So when they allocate outrage, if they at the end of the round, if they put outrage onto cards in the market, like this card, for example, this is a news card, and if there are ever 5 or more cubes on this card at the end of the round, labor fulfills one of their demands, and they get to they are slowly etching up to try to get their 7 tenets of their union documents. That might bring out a queen like Mother Jones, one of the main female leaders of the period, along with Mob Blizzard or another one that give persistent abilities and give them access to one-time ability cards. There's cash in the game that gets spent on actions, and you can see that it's there's dipping back into the world of historical art and of primary text photographs. We've never worked with photographs or editorial comics like this, but bringing in some of the historical, company minted pennies back into the game has been really fun. The archives are really rich.
It will scale in terms of
Yes.
player counts, so it's not just a 3-player game.
Yeah, so it'll be one to three. We're working on the 2-player and have draft ideas for the solo. I'm trying to wrap this now because there's lots of development that we're still working on. This is placeholder art all over the place. You can see some of the art I shouldn't be showing you because I don't have I shouldn't have rights to it yet. But I'll turn away from the stream. Oh no,
Nope, not there.
we're still here. We are all still here. There we are. But we're excited to work on this project together with this team, in part because I guess I didn't explain labor. Sorry, I got too excited. Labor also doesn't have a tableau of cards. I'll tap over to it really quick.
Yeah, it's fine, Drew. No one cares. Don't worry about it.
No one cares. No one cares. I'm gonna go back over to GTS to show that labor doesn't have any cards in front of them, and they are also striking and spreading between sites, and they're managing all of the strikers trying to gain outrage cubes to get to those demands. So importantly, I wanted you to know that labor often will sit across the table managing the 2 company tableaus that are buying cards from the communal market. But it has this this snappy Pamir, like a lighter weight than Pamir, but it still feels like it's interested in questions that PAX games are interested in. But it has I think an approachability and a rules weight that has been really fun to work on. Oops, something's weird and cut off.
So someone in the comments asked about, like, is this one more ready? And some people have noticed that it seems like it feels a little bit more ready. It is more ready. It's certainly farther along than Molly House was. And my hope is that it actually is going to be close to how far along Premiere one, the second edition of Premiere was, where we basically had gotten it like Premiere second edition. When we launched the crowdfunding campaign, there was a graphics pass that we had to do, and there were basically 2 or 3 like rules that we weren't sure about, and then we had the solo mode. For Hellraisers, it's going to be a similar level of finish. So we want this to be hopefully a little bit of a faster turnaround on our side. We have already found a graphic designer that is going to be helping out with some of the project. The full team is assembled. My sense is that we will start doing public playtesting a little bit before the launch of the game, and
Yeah.
then it'll
Yes.
be on its way.
And I suspect we will have very cool metal coins for it. That is the company script. It'll be a really fun, interesting production. And I didn't show a lot of other things that we're working on develop that will also get our playtesters excited about. But know that I think we will start doing more things on our Discord server soon related to Molly House. I'm gonna open up some channels and we'll start soliciting
For Hellraisers.
Sorry. Whoa. For Hellraisers, and we will get more information over there. Which I should, if folks are not on and you are interested in Hellraisers or our Discord community, let's share a link. Wehrlegig Company script is terrifying, but I guess that's backer kit money. That's backer kit credit. I have no idea.
It's backer kit dollars.
Yeah,
Coles bucks.
it's all cold bucks.
Coles bucks. So what I'll also say that we will be showing this game at SD HisCon Winter Quarters. That is February 8th ish. That to me is the like soft launch of public dev for Hellraisers. And then the question about the timing around the crowdfunding campaign, when in the spring, that all just depends on how dev goes. I mean, I think that the title is like pretty far along and in a pretty good spot, so it might happen pretty quickly. But if we aren't getting, if some of the graphics are taking a little bit longer than we want, we'll just wait. There's no rush.
Yeah, and it's been exciting. Can we say who we've been getting to work with for the art?
Let's wait.
Let's
because
wait.
It's too good a surprise. I will tell people it's not Ian O'Toole.
Yeah, it is not Ian O'Toole. It is not.
But it is someone who I have wanted to work with for a really long time.
Yeah, and I think the game will be exceedingly pretty.
It's going to be gorgeous.
We'll
be using mostly historical art. There might be some illustrations that get commissioned, but it's not going to be like Molly House. It's not gonna be
Cole,
like Malleus.
Cole, tell
Yes.
tell the good people where your brain's at.
I'm working on Infamous Traffic. I am so while Drew is, I mean, literally the last several weekends, Drew is working on Hellraisers. And then when I boot up my computer on the weekend to do my Whirligig work, I have been working on Infamous Traffic. Um, it's so I have just finished what I consider like the reading section. I have like one more book I want to read. And I'm taking notes and trying to conceptualize everything. And I'm doing a sort of exhaustive game review. And I think I know what needs to be changed to make the second edition work properly. And I'll start by just talking about the first edition. So what are my problems with the first edition of Infamous Traffic? And the reason why I'm going to frame this way is you have to be angry at yourself to make a second edition. You have to have like like a little fire in your belly. um, for Infamous Traffic, I really want some like better tiles that are like Azul tiles that you mix in a bag and that you put out. Like I think that should be a more of a tactile element of the game. So there's a physical element that I really want. My biggest problem with Infamous Traffic as a design is that I think the game is really good and interesting if players play it slightly poorly, and and I think that
Especially in
the
the
game,
beginning. Yeah.
especially in the beginning. So I usually tell people like if you play a loosey goosey first round of Miss Traffic, the rest of the game is way more interesting. And so in order to fix that, there are some things about the way the game is set up and the way the risk is handled in the game that I think can just be just some soft adjustments. Because when I worked on Infamous Traffic, I think I was still learning a lot about like the shape of risk and its character in games. I think there's a place I can improve that. There are some things relating to the game's cash economy and how money is treated in the game that I think can be improved that can help some of this and allow players to make more interesting bets. Because the thing is, there are components of the opium trade that are not really well reflected in that design. And so, if I were to root this in a place, I would say in Infamous Traffic, if you're familiar with the game, you know there are these like market dominance, like market leaders, industry leader tokens that you get. They're really important. They're like a really important part of how the game works. And I think they're kind of boring. And I wish that that part of the design was more interesting. So I want the design to just grow in complexity just subtly in that area. The last element that I want to explore is to change the scale of the game's storytelling when it comes to the in-game step. So the London season's step in Infamous Traffic is it does its job, but I also think it doesn't quite capture the story of what Jardine and Matheson and all the various traders, how they converted their wealth into prestige, where they had trouble doing it. And I do think there are just some little adjustments to how the London season work that they can make the rest of the game more interesting, and they can also tell better stories. So it's I now have a laundry list of design elements that are uh, interesting enough that they are demanding of my time, and I am pretty close to moving to a design phase with the game.
Yeah, but
Um,
so much of what folks love about Infamous Traffic, we also love for the exact same reasons.
yeah,
It's just I think there are things that have bothered both of us that I think have not been entirely on the radar. So like
my
the game isn't changing in terms of its feel, right? I mean, like that's the biggest
yeah,
thing I could say.
no, no,
Um,
like uh, the way that it is a like hyper interdependent kind of drafting business game, that is still just absolutely going to be what Infamous Traffic is.
yeah,
Um, eh, I think it will be a little bit more faithful in some respects. It'll probably be similar in scope of change to something like Pamir than John Company. It's always hard to know at this stage in the process, and certainly I've been wrong when I make this judgment before. Um, but it is the thing I am actively working on it. This is no longer a like, well, and then I will work on Infamous Traffic. Basically, as soon as we finished Molly House in October of last year, I started working on the reading from Infamous Traffic and just getting myself back into this period. I've already started consulting with some historians who have a lot of expertise, and I'm just developing my understanding of the period just a step deeper because there's been some really good scholarship that's come out in the last decade. that I had not read till now, and a much better understanding um, of why what happened happened. I mean, the Opium Wars are so fascinating because uh, there's like a very bad free market apologist read of the Opium Wars, and then there's also like an equally bad sort of like Chinese apologetics of what happened that says like, we were run roughshod by the Brits. And it's like, well, that's true to a degree, but there's all these other elements in play. And the last few history books that I've read, including Stephen Platt's brilliant Imperial Twilight, really did a good job of saying like, let's look at the state of Chinese government of the Chinese government at the time, the conditions for trade, the interplay of these like few different industries and how they created the circumstances for both the Opium Wars, but also for um, the, uh, the the unrest of the mid 19th century China. So much to say about that,
Yes.
and I know that we are already at the end of the stream, so I will stop. We're getting right at the end of it, but just know that I'm working on this traffic, and I do not yet know how long it's going to take. But my hope is that when my dear brother comes to visit me in the late winter, early spring, I will have something that I can show him. That it might just be some ideas, or maybe it's a prototype, or maybe it's a little bit of both.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it's exciting that it also it comes at a mark where we're also seeing, again, we're constantly thinking about what is Wehrlegig and what sort of projects are we pursuing. And this is, of course, one of the ones that we've always wanted to be doing. So why shouldn't we just take our time and feel it out? And this will be a really also great project to work on with our youngest brother Blake too, who did a lot of testing on the first one, right? So this will
Yep.
be really this will be a great place to plug him in as well. Yeah, and that brings us to the end. Let's
The end of the
Oh,
stream.
well, I guess we should highlight some things. We talked
Oh,
about these projects on previous streams as just like amazing things that were happening in the space, from Winter Rabbit being another finalist for the Zenobia Award, and was so happy to see Will run with it. And
oh
that
yeah,
was
and I got to see a production copy at PAX Unplugged. It was gorgeous. I cannot wait to get my copy in the mail.
yeah, and the team that worked on that project really nailed its art direction, and I'm just like really happy that we were unsure where these, I think you whenever you're designing a game and you're not exactly sure where it could fit, it's a community that sort of helps you decide where. And it was I'm glad that we were able to spend time with Will and with thinking about Persuasion as well, and I'm so happy to hear that it was signed with Hollandspiel as well. Just great news. And also with the new project coming out of Fort Circle too.
Oh yeah, and I'll say, with Zoe's work on Persuasion, I mean, Persuasion was a game that I really liked, but we just couldn't figure out like quite the right way that we would do it.
Yeah,
And the thing that I had is like I had approaches, but I always thought that they were never as good as the sort of like DIY, I don't know. Like it's just it's character, and so I think that it has found a great home, and I can't wait to pre-order it. And then lastly, I'll just say, our friends at Fort Circle, who we always love giving little shout outs to. We're just so excited to see a game about the Supreme Court. Another example of like a subject that I'm so happy that someone's making a game on it.
oh yeah, without a doubt, it looks really really neat. And I'll have to check it out at Circle DC, which I didn't add to this list. We're just traveling a mess like we did last year. We don't learn, but we love to travel. Apparently,
Yeah, yeah. Apparently,
apparently,
the exhaustion does not outweigh the love of traveling.
and I will say this is a rare photo of us not doing board game things while traveling, and that was a joy. But we're still wearing board game shirts, so it
We are
counts.
still wearing board
So
game
it
shirts.
counts. But we'll be at Expo in Louisville, close off to GDC, and then afterwards is Fort
Wait,
Circle.
wait, nope, not quite. I will be at the Granada Gaming Festival in Spain after GDC.
Madness, absolute madness. I if you're out in Spain, I guess go to the Alhambra or wherever you're playing.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go to the Alhambra. I gotta play some Alhambra just to get in the mode.
There we go.
And then we'll be at Origins.
Yes. Yeah, and
Uh,
Origins will probably do some Molly House things, and like, we will have a Molly House. I'll bring the PAX Unplugged booth there, and it'll be fun. It's also Origins like 50th anniversary, so maybe I'll have to bring some old SPI games too.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
that would be fun.
yeah.
See, now you're convincing me getting that
See,
Origins train.
yeah.
And then of course, we'll be at Gen Con. It's just down the road from Drew. Um, and I mean, I will be mostly, Gen Con is for me like a big leader game show, so we'll be mostly showing Oath and Ahoy stuff. But I will try to get another John Company live play
Yeah. Oh,
together. So
wouldn't
that
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 be
that's
a treat?
that is my like low key Gen Con goal. I need to talk to NB about this. I don't want them to find out on the stream. So I'll send them a message after this. And then once, I mean, I would be very surprised if we didn't make it out for SD HisCon.
Yeah.
It's like one of our great favorite shows, and of course, PAX Unplugged to round out the year.
No, madness.
My gosh,
A lot, Cole, a lot.
we used to not go to any of these shows.
No, no. And I'm gonna say this is coming at like I've been like we started Wehrlegig almost 8 or 7 years ago. But we're
7 years ago,
se-
or
se-
maybe close to 8.
because no 7 because eventually it was a few days ago, but I've done this full time for 5 years because of the amount of just extra work that it is to run a business and do design and development work. And that has been again a privilege. I had no idea. I think I told this to Cole. I was like, is that like, you get a company watch, right? What would you get in the
Yeah, I don't
80s
know.
for doing something for 5 years? But like 5 years feels like that was as long as I was at my previous job. So I've now crossed actually for this being the longest held job I've ever had in my little life, and that feels wild, right?
That
That's
feels that's some real wild stuff there.
that's wild
Um,
that I've worked for myself longer than anyone else. That's super strange. But that's a privilege that I get to just be so grateful for. So thank you for letting me do that. Um, can't even look at the
yeah,
stream. I'll cry. I'm
yeah.
lucky.
Yes, you are all wonderful. Thank you so much for tuning into our little look ahead. There were a lot of projects we didn't talk about, which we are like thinking about working on in low key ways. But because we've got a spring crowdfunding campaign with Hellraisers kind of right on the horizon, because Molly House will be shipping to you all soon, we really wanted to use the year ahead stream to underline those things. If you put all these streams next to each other, I think you would get a sense of how the company is growing and changing. And maybe you'll even be able to tell us where we'll be next year at this time.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a treat? Yeah, there's a million other small things that we could get into. Know that if we didn't mention explicitly, it's likely and very likely still on our minds, and we could do a proper we'll do an update again next year. But know that there's lots of other projects that are in early stages or there was just no progress made, because the immediate stuff is the stuff that is y'all need to hear about much sooner,
Yeah,
which is say Hellraisers. Cole, anything else before I let it go?
that's it for me.
Okay.
I got to go to a playtest.
Know that I'm leaving this stream with the title track of Joe's, I think, latest album, unless Joe's done more. They're always up to stuff. Which is the rune of joy called Win. I'll post it in chat. But this is what I'll leave y'all with. It's a treat. Thank you for being here, as ever.
All right, take care, everyone.